Hey, I'm Mr. Carboni. I'll be your calculus teacher this year. Let's talk about the class and how things are going to work. Real quick, I wanted to talk about the Hoover City Schools COVID plans. There are 4 levels. Level 1 is traditional school. Levels 2, 3, and 4, different adjustments made because of COVID. Level 2 is traditional if you come. However, you could be a full-time virtual. Level 3 is you come to school twice a week, you're virtual 3 days a week, or you could be a full-time virtual. And level 4, everybody is full-time virtual. And in this presentation, you will see different colored text. And let's talk about what that means. If something is black, then it will apply to this classroom, regardless of the COVID situation. If something is blue, those are the adjustments I'm going to make if we are under levels 2, 3, or 4. So basically, any time that we have full-time virtual students at Spain Park, the blue stuff will be in effect. And the red stuff is stuff that only applies under traditional schools. So for this presentation, I'm going to blitz the red stuff. I may not even read it. So you can come back and read it later. It's also all on my syllabus on my webpage. So what is calculus and how is this class different than previous math classes? So the simplest way I can describe calculus is that it is the study of change. We will be able to look at things as they're moving and as they're changing, which is a lot more realistic than what you've done in previous classes. Calculus is probably the first class you'll have where it can be more readily applied to the real world. However, calculus in the world of advanced maths, calculus is very elementary. We'll do a lot of explaining and interpreting answers. We are not simply shooting to get an answer, but you have to know what that answer means. You'll be asked to explain the answer in the context of a problem or interpret it. So be ready for that. It's not just getting the answer, but knowing why you got it or how you got it. Unlike pre-cal, every unit in calculus really does flow beautifully into the next unit. When we finish unit 3 and start unit 4, you're probably not going to realize that we moved into a new unit. It flows really well, and I think that makes this class great. And makes it a lot easier, in my opinion, because it's not a bunch of disjointed chapters, kind of like what you had in Algebra 2 and in pre-cal. The best thing about the fact that everything flows is that we're in a constant state of review because everything is always used in subsequent units. So when we're in April getting ready for the AP exam, we're not going to have to go back and review what we did in September and October because we are always using the September and October, November. We're constantly reviewing. Makes it an easier exam to study for. The drawback is that if you slack and you don't learn some material from earlier in the year, then you're really going to be up a creek. So you've got to make sure you stay on top of things. There's no reset button where you can say, all right, this time I'm going to do better. If you want to make that change and you want to do better, that's fine. But part of doing better is you've got to go back and study all of the old stuff and make sure that you understand it. Okay, so my webpage, and I'm not talking about Google Classroom here, but my webpage, I'm going to go here to talk to you about this. You can read right there. It's got a calendar, course documents, and links to Google Drive folder, but it's easier just to show you from my webpage. So if you go to Hoover City Schools webpage, find me, click on Visit Website, and it will take you to this webpage, and you will see links to the course syllabus, the topics outline, a few formula sheets on this page, and that's the home page right here. If you click on calendars, and I'll go to, let's go to the AB calendar. In this calendar, now this is separate from Google Classroom. In this calendar, let me go back to when I actually had assignments. Here we go. Say on February 4th, let's do, sorry, not that one. Let's do February 28th. That would be January 28th. If you click on that date, so this is AB, you'll see we did some stuff out of the textbook. Here's a sheet I handed out. I will always have PDFs of everything we do on my calendar. And homework is listed here as well. You'll also notice that there is a section here called class notes, if you can read that. And if you click on that and click on the class notes, you will see that it pops up a PDF, and I save everything I write on the board. And so these big numbers are where each class period is starting. So here's third period. If you're in, say, fourth period or fifth period or sixth period, you can just scroll down until you see the class period you need. And then you can start going back and revisiting what we did in class. So those class notes will always be there. And if you click on documents, these links are to shared Google Drive folders, not to documents themselves. The ones you would use the most, I would imagine, are the textbook scans and the class notes. So textbook scans, if you click on that and say you want to go see what's on section 2.3, here we are. That's the product and the quotient rule. So if I double click on that, you will see that the textbook pops up. It is the full section, including the introductory material. Problems are here. And the answers to the odd problems are on my webpage as well, right here. Answers to odd problems. You can click on that, open it up. They're the odd answers. On occasion, I will forget to link the class notes in the calendar. However, as soon as I save the class notes, if I forget to link them, they will be saved in this folder. So you can actually go here, and I think it's going to sort by oldest to newest. Yeah, 2014. I don't need that. So let's resort that. And here we are. This is 2020, March 13th. That was Friday the 13th, the last day you had school, and there's the last day of notes. So if I forget to link the notes in the calendar, you could go to this folder and then pop it up, and here are the last notes I gave at Spain Park many, many months ago. So there's my webpage. I wanted to show you that really quick. Let's see, moving on, go back to present mode. And we just talked about my webpage, so there. Okay, so for materials, typically I would tell you to get a large binder because I give you a lot of stuff. I use a lot of handouts. I've developed this huge library of materials since I've been teaching calculus for 15 years now. However, during COVID, everything will be digital. So unless you plan on printing all of your worksheets and stuff, you may not need a huge binder, just enough to have some notebook paper for you to do some work. We'll be using the Inspire CAS-CX. I do have a classroom set if you happen to come to class. However, as long as we are virtual, as long as there are virtual students, you can also use something like Wolfram Alpha or Desmos or something like that. I would encourage you to become familiar with these Inspires because if we do have a traditional AP exam next year, you're going to need to know how to use this calculator. So don't get too don't get too reliant on those web-based calculators. Okay, grading policy. I grade by total points. I'm probably the only math teacher at Spain Park who does that. There are no categories. All of your grades just go into one big old pot, and then at the end of the 9 weeks, we will divide your points achieved by points possible, move the decimal, and get your percent grade. The assignment types, we'll talk about these later. Classwork, homework, quizzes, free response question, quizzes, and unit tests. All right, classwork is classwork. That's red. We don't care. Homework is homework. That's red. I don't care. Here we go. COVID plans for classwork and homework. So the truth is the two will be the same as long as we are under any COVID plan. So we're just going to have assignments, and you've got to complete the assignments. They're due by midnight of the day they are assigned. So make sure that you have submitted them in Google Classroom by midnight. Friday assignments are due by midnight on Sunday. There are no optional assignments during COVID scheduling. And the reason that's in there is because if you are looking very quickly at the previous slide, you may have noticed that homework under a traditional school schedule is optional. That is not true under the COVID situation. And all assignments must be turned in digitally. We are not going to be turning paper in and getting it back. All right, I had some technical difficulties, so I changed shirts, and now everything seems to be working fine. So quick quizzes. These are traditional math quizzes that feature problems similar to what you will see in class, your normal assignments, your textbook problems. Those are the level question you're going to see on what I dub the quick quiz. They don't take the whole class period. They're not long, labor-intensive assessments. They're worth about 25 to 50 points, which I know is a wide range, but they're a lot less than a test would be worth. Under the COVID situation, your quick quizzes will look like and be presented the same way that a normal assignment is going to be posted. The exceptions to that are that quizzes will be timed. So if you have a quiz and I say it's a 25-minute quiz, make sure that you open that quiz when you have 25 minutes of uninterrupted time to work on it. If you turn it in late, I'll get some kind of a notification letting me know, or it'll be flagged as being turned in late. So make sure that you have that amount of time to work on it without any interruptions. And usually quizzes are closed notes, but under COVID, I can't stop you from using the notes in the internet. So let's just say all assessments are open notes and open internet. However, I do expect you to finish these quizzes, and this goes for tests as well, finish them completely independently. So use the internet in all of its splendid glory, except don't collaborate with other people. So no help from other people on quizzes, and we're just gonna have to do that on the honor system. So just be honest and be true, and don't use other people to help you with your quizzes. So a free response quiz is a different type of quiz, and these are modeled after the free response section on the AP exam. This is where they give you like one big block of information, and then they'll ask 4 or 5 questions, 3 or 4 questions on that information. They would normally be closed notes, but they won't be this under COVID. Let's see. So you have 15 minutes to finish each free response quiz. They're worth 9 raw points each. And after we have finished 3 of the free response quizzes, then your raw score out of 27 will be scaled to a grade out of 100. Now, your free response quizzes are pretty difficult. The AP exam is pretty difficult. The smartest students usually get about 55, 60% of the raw points. So I'm not going to give you a 55 or a 60 out of 100 in iNow. If you're one of the smart ones, like that, you should be getting like A's and B's. So I have a scaling formula here where P is your percent of raw points, and you can play with that and see how, say if you got a 60, what does that translate to out of 100? So I do scale all of them. They will feel very difficult, but usually the grades going into iNow are respectable, even though you may have only gotten 40% of the raw points. Under COVID, just what I mentioned earlier, open notes, open internet, but no other people on the honor system. Okay, major tests. We will have major tests, so I don't know why the category is red, but let's go down here. The test will be worth about 125 points. That can change. Let's see, that's red. I don't care. So let's go on to the COVID plan for major tests, and this is where I'm the least sure about how this is going to work. I'm playing with several different websites and several different test generators and things like that. I can tell you that tests will be open notes and everything like the quizzes, but I do expect you to do them independently. I'm going to try to get a website like Delta Math or AP Classroom to work where many versions of the test can be generated to try to cut back on collaboration. And I do not know yet if I will use the scaling formula on major tests. I typically do, but this year I'm not sure how the major tests are going to work out. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. So a few additional COVID notes for you. On Wednesdays, when we have virtual sessions, I'm going to try to have a Google Meet for all my classes during regular class times. So I have 5 classes. I'm going to try to do 5 Google Meets. If I can't do that, then I'll schedule 1 each day for each of my classes. So 1 for AB, 1 for BC, and also 1 for the regular calculus classes. The reason I can't guarantee that I'll be available during our actual class period is because I also have 2 elementary age daughters who will be with me at Spain Park on Wednesdays, and I'm going to have to make sure that they are getting their work done as well. And I don't know how that will go. So we'll see. Live streaming class. If we have enough bandwidth and we can get this to work out, I will do a Google Meet for every single class period on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you're virtual on those days, you can hopefully join in with the Google Meet so you can kind of follow along and you can at least hear me and see my screen. And if you have questions, you can speak up and ask questions as well. Do remember that all assignments are due by midnight of the day they are assigned. So if I give you a 90-minute test, don't start it at 11:15 p.m. because now you're giving yourself 45 minutes instead of 90. So just be aware of timed situations and make sure things are turned in by midnight. Okay, so when we have Google Meets, my expectations for Google Meets, well, this isn't really an expectation. I will send you a link to join the Google meeting sometime during the day of the meeting. You don't have to. If you're at home, you can't. I'm not going to force you to join the Google Meets. I have no idea what your home life is like, and if you can even do it at your scheduled time for class. But if you are home and you can join, I would strongly recommend you to do so. Keep your microphone. Okay. Keep your microphone muted at all times unless you have a question. If you have to ask a question, then just unmute and say, "Hey, Mr. C, I've got to ask something," and that'll be fine. But otherwise, keep your microphone muted so there's not a whole bunch of background noise going on. You also could type your question in the chat if you would like. And I don't care if you turn your camera on or off. So if you want to leave your camera muted as well, that's fine. I would like for you to leave your camera on at least early on so I can kind of get to know your faces and get to know you a little bit better. But I know a lot of you are uncomfortable with that, and that's perfectly fine. If you have to ask a question, I would prefer you to unmute your video while you're asking the question, because so much of communication is visual and not just the words that are said. And all Google meetings will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube for later viewing. So those of you who can't join the Google meetings know that they will be available at some point for you. Also keep in mind that if you are joining the Google Meets, that they are recorded. So wear appropriate clothes, wash your language, and all that good stuff. And I think that's it. Yep, that's it.